Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome if you're new. Thank you for taking time out of your day to check the video out. In this video, we're talking about one topic, but it's a pretty significant one that started with just one rumor from one source, but has since gained traction, and it's something that is being talked about a lot now, and it's understandable why, because it's kind of unexpected, somewhat unprecedented, and that is the rumor that Microsoft is getting ready to release some of their first-party exclusive titles on rival consoles and rival platforms. So this rumor first stemmed from Nate the Hate, where he claimed that one critically acclaimed title from a Microsoft first party is going to be making its way to a rival console. And since then, there have been more rumors that have come out that claim it's going to be Hi-Fi Rush, and it is at least going to be coming to the Nintendo Switch and potentially also making its way to PS5 as well. Now, obviously, a rumor like this is going to stir up a lot of conversation. A lot of people now really wondering if there is truth to this. Another big reason why people are wondering this is because at the end of last year, Xbox CFO Tim Stewart was talking to investors and basically talked about a shift in strategy that you're not going to see right away, but it's going to be happening sometime soon. And he really just kind of made it seem like Microsoft, from a gaming perspective, was going to really begin to embrace the idea of being a big third-party publisher. This was something that they were going to kind of lean into. And of course, when that happened, Phil Spencer shortly came out afterwards and said, we have no plans to put Game Pass onto PlayStation or Nintendo, but he didn't necessarily deny that this is something they could potentially be pursuing. Now, since Nate the Hate came out and said this, we also have Jez Corden from Windows Central, who apparently did some digging, and he did a report on this, and he said, quote, "Very trusted, proven sources have said that Microsoft has been exploring bringing some of its back catalog to other platforms," end quote. He then also went on to say that he's also talked to other sources that claim that games like Hellblade 2 and Avowed and Elder Scrolls 6 are still going to be Xbox console exclusives. So I think that's kind of the important thing to pay attention to here, is as we are getting more information about this from other sources, it seems to kind of hint towards the back catalog of Microsoft-owned titles, not necessarily games like Hellblade 2 coming to PS5, at least not anytime soon, if ever. And so this, again, is something that people are feeling very strongly about, right? Like, it's one of these things where some Xbox fans are having a difficult time, I guess, believing that this is something Microsoft would do. Others just seem totally indifferent to it. Of course, PlayStation and Nintendo fans are curious to see if this turns out to be true, because it's like the idea that if you buy a Nintendo Switch, you can get all of the Nintendo's exclusives, but now you can begin to expect maybe some of Microsoft's exclusives making their way there, and it's going to be even more significant if any of these games come to PS5, because I feel like when it comes to Sony and Microsoft, there is a little bit more direct competition there, because the Xbox Series X and the PS5 are very similar, right, in what they're trying to offer and what they're trying to do. Whereas with the Switch, you can kind of understand that it is very different from the Series X and the Series S. So to me, that's kind of the really interesting part about this, is how significant is this going to be for PlayStation, and how many games is Microsoft planning on doing this with? It's also worth noting that, this comes not too long after the Blade announcement at the Game Awards, but one of the biggest conversations surrounding that announcement is the fact that it was never announced as a Xbox exclusive, right? Like, it was something that people really wanted to know, and Bethesda wouldn't comment on it, Microsoft wouldn't comment on it, no one would comment on it, and we still don't know what's going on with that game, like if it's actually going to be a multi-platform title or if it's going to be an Xbox console exclusive. Looking at stuff like this, it just kind of makes it even harder to gauge stuff like that. Now, what I want to do is highlight something that a well-known Xbox influencer had to say about this situation. This is coming from Clobriel over on Twitter. He covers all things Xbox, Xbox first party, and he has over 150,000 followers on Twitter. So, again, he has a lot of influence here. He wrote an extensive piece here on how he feels about this situation. And it's something that I wanted to read because I think it's pretty interesting. And it's also something that I agree with. He says here, no one is saying that you have to share or care for the concerns Xbox fans have. That's totally fine. But there are logical reasons why not everyone is happy with this direction, and that has nothing to do with the plastic box or console wars or whatever. I'm tired of reading this. If you think this is about a console, you don't understand anything. A brand, an investment, an ecosystem is defined by its games, by its library. And the moment you bring experiences to competitors, you'll give up a bit of that identity, potentially piece by piece. You'll actually take away value reasons to get into the ecosystem in the first place. From here, it snowballs. You take away reasons to get into the ecosystem, your ecosystem potentially shrinks, your ecosystem potentially receives less third-party support, and suddenly you, as an Xbox gamer, are directly affected by these decisions. You'll ignite discussions when first-party game X or Y is coming to the competition. You'll inevitably hurt the value of your own brand. Such moves directly contradict some of the statement you, as a company, made in the past, some of what is already happening today. But it's awesome. More players get to play Hi-Fi Rush. Again, you seem to fail to understand what the concerns even are about. Of course, more players playing games is awesome. Anyone would agree with this. What even is this kind of argument? It also would be awesome if more players could play Helldivers, Splatoon, God of War, or Mario. That's an obvious non-statement applicable to literally every game ever, big or small. But there are good reasons none of those games are on Xbox. The point is, this is a one-way street. You won't see Nintendo or Sony experiences on an Xbox device or service. Period. You cannibalize something that is unique to Xbox for more sales. Yes, you get more money short term, but you'll lose other value which cannot easily be attached to numbers. There are too many cooks in the kitchen at Xbox, and Xbox wants to cook everywhere these days. I feel like the organization itself doesn't really know what it wants to be, so of course they fail to communicate that properly to its audience. I'm a hardcore Xbox user, and there are days where I don't understand their strategy, their decisions anymore. If I don't understand, how can they expect 2 billion gamers to understand them? Xbox already is both first and third-party publisher today, and I think people will need to get used to the latter becoming even more prominent at Xbox. So I know that was quite a bit, but you can tell Clobriel really has a lot to say about this and feels very strongly about it. But what's really important to highlight is that he is absolutely correct in what he's trying to say. What he is essentially saying here is that Microsoft is trying to get the best of both worlds. They're trying to have their cake and eat it too. They want to be a first-party publisher and platform holder with their own ecosystem, which automatically means they're going to fight to try to get people in that ecosystem. This is something that Microsoft has been doing since they created Xbox. But now that they are beginning to lean much more heavily, seemingly, into being a third-party publisher, this is going to erode that notion, right? That possibility, at least to a certain extent, of people willingly wanting to choose the Xbox ecosystem over, say, the PlayStation ecosystem or the Nintendo ecosystem. It's just as simple as if people become conditioned to expect Microsoft games on other platforms, other consoles, other ecosystems, knowing that games from those ecosystems, PlayStation exclusives, Nintendo exclusives, will not be making their way to the Xbox ecosystem, then it makes the decision that much easier for people to say, yeah, I'm just going to go with Nintendo, or I'm just going to go with PlayStation, right? Now, it's going to be really interesting to see how this all plays out, because even though we're talking about, all of these games possibly one day making their way to other consoles and other ecosystems, this is just a rumor, okay? I don't think it would be wise for anybody, including Xbox fans, to walk away from this rumor assuming that in the future, Starfield, Halo, Gears of War, Forza, all these games are just going to be playable on PS5 or PS6 in the future and Nintendo. We don't know that. All we know is that right now we're seeing the beginning of Microsoft embracing the notion of becoming a more prominent third-party publisher. There could be many different reasons why they're choosing to do this. Something that really stands out to me here is when we specifically look at Windows Central report, they're making it known that they've been told by their trusted and proven sources that Microsoft still has every intention of making some of these bigger upcoming games console exclusives to Xbox and to that ecosystem. So it kind of, again, paints this picture of Microsoft wants to try to walk this fine line of seeing what they can achieve by doing both, right? Being a first party publisher that is just focused on their own ecosystem when it's convenient for them, but also being a third party publisher and reaping those benefits when it's convenient for them. It'll be very interesting to see how this plays out because, again, we have to keep in mind all of this is just rumor, but it certainly seems like where there's smoke, there's fire. And at this point, it seems like we're just going to be waiting for the official confirmation from Microsoft that at the very least, a game like Hi-Fi Rush is going to be making its way to another console. At that point, it'll be interesting to see where they go from there. But definitely something I think that's worth talking about here and worth highlighting. I really just can't help but wonder if Microsoft at this point is kind of, knowing that they just don't really care that much about console sales, right? I think that's a pretty important aspect of this conversation is knowing that they're at this point where it's like, yeah, the console's there for those who want it. It's an option. We're not getting rid of it. We're still going to support it. But just knowing that it's not their priority and really something like Game Pass and again, like maximizing how much money they can make off their games, like this is becoming the priority. You can kind of see why they're beginning to do this. Yeah, take it for what it is and let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. That's going to do it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it informative. If you did, leave it a like, subscribe if you're new, hit the bell notification icon, and feel free to share this video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.